Hey y'all, my name is Ann Wyatt. I started my career in workforce development with the state of Kentucky in 2010. That experience ignited a deep passion for manufacturing within me. I started this show hoping to raise more awareness around the bright outlook manufacturing careers have. Join me as I sit down with some of the manufacturing industry's most successful changemakers and learn how they're partnering people with technology. It's time to give people more meaningful work. This is Workforce 4.0. Okay, hey y'all, we are back with another episode of Workforce 4.0. So excited to have Mike White here, the founder of Secchi.io with us today. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I know we've both been so busy with everything and it's been a while since we touched base, but thank you for coming on the show. Super grateful to have you. How have you been over the past month or so?
Been doing well. I've been busy because we implemented 2 new customers, and that's really good for us right now. So I'm excited to see what the results will be looking out 3 months from now, how much better they're doing.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, cool. Well, in honor of you being on Workforce 4.0, I've got to jump into the conversation with the first inaugural question,
All right.
which is always, what is your favorite karaoke song or your favorite song?
So I wrote down 2. When I think about like karaoke, there's 2 songs that stick out to me is you got to choose a song that everybody loves and knows when you're a bad singer. And then you got to have confidence. So Friends in Low Places wins every time.
Nice.
That's easy. That's the easy button. So that's advice for anybody that wants to get a party started. Just do Friends in Low Places and have a beer in your hand. And then the other one that sticks out is Boys to Men. It's inappropriate for HR. But Boys to Men, I'll Make Love to You is a solid karaoke song because it's very awkward and you really don't know the lyrics until you sing them in front of people. And it has a special spot in my heart because I went out with a group of people and I didn't really know anybody. And we went to a karaoke bar and I thought, it would be really funny to sing this right now. I didn't know anybody and I'm mid-20s and it was funny. And then I think that's what hooked my wife because everybody's like, who is this guy? And she was in the group. And so it just is embarrassing, but fun. And the words it's really weird if you slow it down.
Oh, I love that though. That would be funny. And I'm sure that you went from not knowing everyone in the room to like knowing everyone.
Yeah.
And that's even better that your wife was there and that's so
Well,
cute.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know she was my wife then. I just knew she was this blonde lady that I fancied. So It worked out.
It worked out. Well, I love that. And I've not tried either one of those. So maybe I should try those.
Yeah. Easy.
Definitely
easy
get down with Friends in Low Places, I think.
Everybody knows it. They'll sing it so
Everyone
you
knows
don't
it.
even sound bad while they sing. So it's a solid karaoke one.
Well, cool. Well, getting kind of into more of the depth of the conversation here. Secchi is an HR tech company, which is really exciting for me because I love this entire space. I think that it's got a lot of potential in the future and how technology is incorporated into the daily lives of our workforce. But what are you the most excited about with technology and its developing role as it's being integrated into the human?
Yeah. So I've spent 15 years in manufacturing and you get around all this awesome automation and ERP systems and in manufacturing MES systems and cool ops engineering technology and, eyeglasses, augmented reality.
Yeah.
And it hits the front lines and it hits the folks that are making the money, right? They're the value add areas. And in the last 5 years specifically, the HR is catching on. And HR folks, and I know you're not all focused on HR, but there are a lot of HR listeners. They tend to be conservative from a standpoint of spending money and taking risk because naturally, if you're in human resources, you understand risk and you see the worst in people and all that. Well, as we've been more comfortable with the technology, it's opening up the good HR people, the ones that want to change the business. they see all this redundancy and they see the technology out on the floor and going, why don't we have that in HR? It doesn't make sense. Why am I managing with spreadsheets
Yeah,
over and over again?
that hits.
Yeah, how many spreadsheets can I freaking have? And so I spent a good 10 years going, a computer should be doing this. Why am I doing this? And I tried Access databases, I tried Excel, I learned Power BI, I learned Tableau, and all these different systems that are just standard. And then I said, we got to do something different. And that's where I come in. But I'm excited about all the tech that's out there in the HR space.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And that was a real frustration of mine as well with some of that. Just the old outdated technology was really, I mean, it was just very cumbersome, right? And it was very slow. And, people, it's like live action all the time, right? In HR.
Yep.
So there's a lot going on. There's, you have a large workforce, and it's important to kind of keep in touch with your workforce and have a pulse on what's going on at any given time. Because the more that you can do that, in my experience, the better your culture is going to be, the more engaged your workforce is going to be. And overall, I mean, just the happier your employees are going to be. So I think that's super important. And as an HR tech company, Secchi's purpose is to let great workers do great work. And I love that, by the way. What does that mean to you?
Yeah. So as an HR professional, so 15 years in operations, I just hate being the barrier. I want to be a supporter to get the stuff done. I don't want to be the no guy. I don't want to say, oh, you can't do that, or HR doesn't let me. And I don't think the good ones of us out here don't want that. And let great workers do great work is let them make the decisions. Let your frontline leaders make decisions and don't get in their way. Let your frontline employees do their job without Joe, who takes 10 extra smoke breaks, gets in people's business, causes drama. We all know that person, and we let them stay on the team because we don't have a perfect rule that they've broken and all that. And so we want to get out of that guy's way. We want to get out of HR. Let HR do a great job. So let great workers in HR do a great job by giving them the tool to do it. And so for me, it hits like the three personas that are using the program the most is the frontline leader, the HR leader, and the frontline employee. And fundamentally, one of our customers said this is you can't let your bad employees chase off your good ones.
That's right.
And if you are treating everyone the same, if anyone on your team says we have to treat people the same, though that is 100% wrong. They should never believe that. That's not true. No one treats everyone the same, and you shouldn't. If you treat everyone the same, you're on a recipe to mess up your business. Your great employees need to be treated like great employees, and your bad employees need to be treated like bad employees, which inevitably means get them out of the business. And the more that you recognize and connect with your great employees and the less time you spend with the bad ones, it makes for a great culture.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. It's frustrating too, right? Because at the end of the day, first and foremost, I will make this statement. I don't think that any HR leader out there ever got into HR knowing that what they were getting into. No. And I'll say that because I think some of the most compassionate and empathetic people that I've ever worked with have been HR leaders. I think what happens is that you go into this degree field and you have this mindset of, I love people, I want to work with people, and I like handling the benefits, and I like the payroll aspect, and I like the leadership aspect of HR. And really that is the foundation of HR, is like you have to have strong leadership, right? Skills. I think they get in there and then the HR is very aligned with compliance. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that that's something that you kind of understand until you are at your first HR role, learning on site with a workforce of like 100 plus people of what compliance looks like in real life. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
So I think that, we have to find some sort of happy, I don't know, like happy balance there where, you can still kind of give back to your HR leadership and still make sure that they are able to do their job and drive the compliance piece. So how do you think Secchi really speaks to that?
Yeah. So I want to spend compliance to me is the least value add stuff that I do. So we have to do it. Of course, you avoid fines and legal issues. And my saying when an ops leader wants to let somebody go, I'm like, hey, I know you want to do it today. I know you want to do it today. I want to do it today. We all want to do it today.
All right.
But we're gonna do it in a way that is gonna take 30 days, maybe 60, and we're gonna give them an opportunity to do better. But if we do it today, it's way more efficient to do it compliant than it is not, because we're going to spend months and months in court. And have you been interviewed by an employment lawyer lately? If you don't feel, if you're not humbled right now, they will humble you. So hey, let's do it the right way. And what Secchi does is we just make it so easy to do it the right way that the compliance conversations essentially are done by the computer. Like, it gives you those step-by-step directions that you would need if you're in sales. It's similar to a CRM. It gives you those step-by-step directions to connect with the employee. Hey, it's time to connect with your employee. Hey, it's time to review. It's time to do their performance review. It's time to recognize their birthday, anniversary. Those simple
I love
things
that.
that when you have step-by-step directions are easy. And I spent 15 years going, I have a pile of trainings that I've done for frontline leaders. And I'm like, these frontline leaders, they're never learning this. Well, at some point, you have to go, what am I doing wrong? It's not the people, it's the process. And when you give leaders turn by turn directions on how to lead, they know how to do it. They just don't know how to do it in a compliant way. They don't know how to do it in engaging, maybe a consistent way. And we create that consistent, engaging interaction with employees.
Yeah, and that's another really cool tool that you guys offer, is that ability to message your frontline workforce and just send a text and just have that constant communication that it really takes to kind of have that unified, engaged workforce.
Yeah. So the result, as you say that, like, what comes to mind is our customers, our big customers that are tracking turnover, they're cutting turnover by 50%. That's not made up. That's a real, I didn't believe it when they told me. I was like, you're full of it. And they're like, no, it's 50% lower. And guess what? Our productivity's up. Guess what? Our costs are down and our employees are more engaged. Wow, how do we do, like, I'm like, no, you did something else. And they're like, no, your software is awesome, and bragging a little bit. But what we've done, the key feature of that is we don't ask employees to download programs. It doesn't work. I spend a lot of time, hey, put an app on my phone. Are you gonna pay for my phone? And it's just a losing case. But if we do exclusively text messages with the frontline employees. So anytime an employee gets recognized in the moment, in real time, their recognition goes on a 12-month calendar. So a leader can recall the days that they recognize somebody. I used to joke, don't do anything good in the first quarter because they're not going to remember in the first quarter. Well, or fourth quarter, when you do your review, we're going to remember it because it's going to show up on our screen as a leader. And then the employee gets to go, hey, honey, they get to go home and say, hey, honey, how was work? Oh, I got recognized for doing X, Y, or Z. And so we're engaging. We got a great story of one of our customers sent a message on the way home. He purposely sent it on the way home from work. And we allow to translate to Spanish. And this employee speaks English, but is English second language. The leader translated into Spanish, wrote a real nice message. He showed it to his entire family. He walks in the next day. He's excited to come into work and tell his boss about how cool he sounds in front of his whole family. So those stories are over and over again. If you get it right in the moment, we're getting those employees that want to do more and not have to do more. and that discretionary effort that we all want through that instant engagement. The other time we send a text message is when somebody's late. And we, a lot of I'm sure a lot of your listeners, a lot of our folks have point systems. So we can do it with points, without, but we send a message that says you were logged as being late for a personal, maybe tardy, and you can write in whatever reason. And then it sends them a text message to say you were logged as being late. Because in reality, all employees are like, did my supervisor track that right? So we improve the quality of tracking because the employee is now our double check. And they can text our number at any time and understand how many points they have. Just in those two things, you cut out an enormous amount of paperwork.
That's a whole conversation.
Yes.
You cut out like an entire conversation, which, you should probably still have, but it doesn't have to, no one is going to be, I guess it kind of takes that surprise element out of it. And if you're in HR, you know what I'm talking about.
Right. We don't send texts like, these are interactions. Like, my mind is, a computer should do this. You still have to go shake their hand. I'm not replacing recognition. What I'm doing is, hey, thank you for staying over and cleaning up. I put it in the system so they hear it. Now they get to see it on their phone. They can go to that number and see all the recognitions they've gotten all year. I haven't worked in a facility yet. I've been responsible for 60 plus facilities that recognition was not a problem in the top 2 of their employee surveys.
Oh,
so, yeah. So we're going to change. We're changing that.
Good. I love that. Let's talk about you for a few minutes, if that's okay. Cool. Just as a founder and all of that good stuff, it's very inspiring. And I always love having founders on my show because I feel like, we have very similar energy, like the get up, go, 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 go vibes, right? High energy, high octane. But one of my favorite questions to ask founders when they come on the show is, how did you decide to become a founder of a technology company? Was this something that you'd always wanted to do, or was this something that you were inspired later in life to do? Tell us your story.
So I played sports growing up, but a nice night, back to talking about my wife, she said, I didn't realize you were a nerd. And, you have to, I hide that a little bit, but I was programming websites when HTML came out. So I understand a little bit. And I was in Web Club, and shout out to Coach Bogue, who taught Web Club, and my buddies there. So I have a little bit of that tech side in me. I didn't think 10 years ago, I'm going to start a tech company. I did always want to run my own company. My dad ran a company and was an entrepreneur. My brother runs his office. He's an entrepreneur. And we bonded over talking about business. And my brother and I started from Central Illinois, which means I worked in cornfields as a teenager. And my brother and I started a business that ended up growing way bigger than we could. We had 80 employees. And so it grew bigger than we could have imagined. And I said, I was going to be a teacher. I decided, I really like business, and took the corporate route. Then from the corporate route, I moved into the Southeast and just got into HR when I was running that detasseling business. The things that made the difference to me, we ended up getting more work than some of the migrant companies in the area, the White Brothers. And we did because we did a really good job on the HR. And I didn't know it was HR, but it was the bonuses. It was the retention program.
Yeah.
It was, how do we get kids to work for us year over year? And how do we get kids to work year over year? And we created onboarding. And my claim to fame was getting rid of water breaks. So how do you get rid of water breaks? That's illegal.
Yeah, they got to take a 15, Mike.
They have to do break. They have to do their break. But what's happening when they're walking in the cornfields is every time people stop, and most of these folks I'm talking about are all my friends. They're all professionals now, but they milk the clock. And so I'm like, how do I started moving the water jug where they would come out. And then we started, what if I get bigger water jugs? But then I bought hydro packs for everybody. So I pay for the hydro pack. When you pay for the hydro pack, then we don't have to stop at the end of the field every time. And that eliminates water breaks. And so we were just flying through fields. This is too much. I'm off on a tangent. I've always been
No,
determined.
this is really interesting because to me, retention's huge right now. So
Yes.
any advice you can give our listeners on retention strategies that have worked for you in the past, please flow with that.
Yeah. So I've done them all. I've done the retention programs they typically start, all right, we need to pay more. And I'm like, hold up, yeah, you need to pay. Great. But, oh, we need better leaders. And you go through all these, we need more training. And then we come up with these elaborate training and onboarding programs. And you got to do that. You got to do all that stuff. But
You do.
the two things that I've found most effective is Secchi. I've never seen anything as effective as their software. And then the second thing is stay interviews, talking and creating a process for new employees with stay interviews. So
I'm a huge fan
those are my two
of
biggest
those.
levers.
Go, we say that all the time with technology, right? I mean, like when you're implementing new technology, the biggest things that you want to look at is how does it affect the end user, right? And then gauging their comfort level and like going out on the floor and talking to them. Same thing with HR. You have got to be on top of it.
Yeah. The thing that our software does that is part of it, I built the program to fire people. I did. I just wanted documentation to fire people. But what the customers use it for and creating the culture of recognition and engagement, it is a culture changing software. But that's where the value is. But if you allow one bad person on your team, there's a study out of the University of Washington, it says your output's going to go down 40%. And that metric I've seen over and over again. I ask every potential sale that question, is this number feel right? They're like, it's higher. So sometimes the best way to retention is letting go of your worst employees.
Yeah. And having, and like you're saying, just having data to support that.
Yes.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm definitely on board with the process and the hands-on, well, just the overly communicative approach, right?
Right.
Is huge for attention. So, Mike, do you have time for one more question?
Let's do it
today.
Let's
Okay.
do it.
Cool. So, what's the one piece of career advice that you've received along the way that has had the biggest impact on you? Because I know everyone wants to give advice, right? I've had that.
Right.
Yeah. But what's the one piece that you've taken over the years?
So the one that's coming to mind right now, and we didn't hit on this, but it's also tied to software a little bit, is incentives. It's my uncle's quote. I don't know if he made it up. He says, incentives work. And that's the great thing about incentives. But the problem with incentives is they work. And you go, what does that mean? And I had a former coworker, Rachel, who used to say, the land of unintended consequences. Where is that land? We do something with a great intention, but we forget about that land of unintended consequences and those incentives. What are the incentives of the individual? And being in HR the last 15 years, I can tell you I've now transformed my view. Everything is incentive based. What's in it for me? What's in it for us? What's in it for my team? What's in it for my family? If we have incentives, the right incentives, there's always going to be a negative result in that land of unintended consequences, but they work. And one of the things that you and I talked when we first met was the gamification of incentives on an individual basis. So there's a lot of talk, gamification in the HR space. And years ago, I read a study about gamification with library books. So some library figured out how to gamify putting books back for librarians, and they increased output some ridiculous amount. And I kept going, how does my software do that? How can we get the software at Secchi to gamify on an individual basis? And so what we came up with is attendance streaks. So just like when you walk into a factory and it says 2,000 days since the last accident,
right?
That
for
message?
Safety. Yes,
for safety. Yeah, you do not want to be the person that gets hurt. So everybody is paying, and the risk goes up and up and up and up and up. So what we've done is we've created attendance streaks for the individual employee. So I'm able to tell you in a plant of 300 who hasn't missed a day in 500 days. And where that matters is I'm in Wisconsin area. I keep it on the down low that I'm a Bears fan. My wife's a Packer fan.
I'm a Packer fan.
Oh, you're a Packer fan. Okay, I am too. I just go along with it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I go along with it right now. I did
For your own, it's a survival tactic, isn't it?
It's more. When they played in the playoffs, I realized that the Bears winning would be awesome, but my wife's gonna be way more upset than I am. So if they win, I win. It's a win-win for me.
There's peace.
Yeah. So when you go out, like you get asked out, hey, I'm planning on watching the game at home with my family, but then I get asked to the bar, and I'm like, oh, they're having a watch party, Bears Packers Monday night. It's at the bar. Well, I have 700 days streak that I haven't missed a day of work. I'm not going to the bar on Monday night. I'm going to stay home. I'm not going to mess up my streak. And companies have created these incentives. So you get to 100 days, you get to 200. So it truly gamifies it on an individual level, and it allows the business to treat people consistently, but differently based off performance.
That's awesome. What are some of the best incentives you've seen companies there? Because I'm sure they come up with that internally, right?
The best one, and that he ended up selling this manufacturing company. It's in Athens, Georgia. But the best one that I have seen is there's this manufacturing plant. They make on a telephone poles, the things that look like big Coke cans, the transformer things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they make those in Athens, and they were having a push for perfect attendance. And the year prior, they pushed it, and they had pretty good results. And they said next year, whoever has perfect attendance puts their name in for a car. And the CFO is going, this isn't a good idea.
Oh, I bet he was fit to be tied.
They had 200 people, like 200 plus people. And I think the plant was 250 maybe total people. I might be a little bit off. But they had like 200 people have perfect attendance that year, because they were in a drawing for a $25,000 car. And you go, well, that's crazy. Shoot, we go out right now. There's a billboard, $10,000 sign-on bonus down the road from me. So This was crazy back then. But they're getting there. They got their 200 people with perfect attendance. Can you imagine? I can't imagine.
I don't think. What year was that? I would be very interested to see a plant turn up those numbers right now.
Just right. It was
things being the way they are.
I want to say it was 2015 or 14. So it was a few years back. But
still,
if you have perfect attendance, and when you have the clarity that Secchi has, it helps you see it. We miss the people that come in every day and do their job. And don't make noise.
Yeah. And you know what? Those are the ones that, because I've done retention studies and things like that in the past for big manufacturing companies. But I mean, those are the ones that they eventually get sick of it, and they feel undervalued and underappreciated. And then one day it's like they're gone, and you're like, well, what happened to so-and-so? And well, they quit. And then if you called them up, and theoretically, right. And I asked them, what happened? Why did you quit? And they're like, well, I never felt heard. I felt undervalued. It didn't really feel like my presence mattered that much. And that's a huge deal. And I think we are not great at that as an industry. We aren't.
No.
And we've got to get better.
Yeah. When you're managing 30 people, it's easy to let people slip through the cracks. And the reality is, in HR, we spend so much time on the negative side. Like what I hope we do with Secchi is we reward the good people. And fundamentally, I just got sick and tired of game players and people that bring down the team still be on the team and not be held accountable. And this is like a fairness aspect of like, if you're doing the right thing, you should be rewarded. And when you reward the people in the right behaviors, so much falls into place.
Yeah. I mean, it really is. And it builds your strong culture. And the best thing about it is that if you get that core culture built and you succeed in that culture will protect themselves.
Yeah.
And then you put it in autopilot, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, really and truly, they will protect their culture.
Yeah.
So very cool. That was a great story. That's really That's really cool. I'll have to do a little Googling later and see if I can't come across. Was there like a press release or anything?
It probably is. Google Athens, Georgia, car for free, perfect attendance. Let's see if it's out there.
I'm going to have to do that. Well, thank you so much, Mike, for being on Workforce 4.0. I appreciate it.
So I don't have anything else except reach out. We're still growing, and look forward to connecting as we come up with new technology with Workforce 4.0. I think I have some other really cool technology that you're going to be interested in the future too.
I'm going to love that. Is that the best way to reach you? Is your email address?
Yeah, hit us up at the email address or book a demo at Secchi, the SECCHI.io.
Okay, perfect. And what positions are you hiring for? Just out of curiosity.
Right now, we will likely in the next few months have some sales positions and programming positions.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, Mike, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate you. And for everybody out there listening, we will see you next time on Workforce 4.0.